Yo, my peoples, welcome to Rants and Randomness. I'm Luvvie Ajayi, and I am your host. You know, this is my podcast where I talk about things I'm loving and anything else that's on my mind. I am here at the Chicago Recording Company, bringing y'all the radio voice. I have been on hiatus for the last couple of months, trying to get my life together. I took summer break, and because I was planning my wedding. This is a special episode about the wedding, and I am now somebody's whole wife. I am a married woman. Y'all, it's crazy. And the wedding process has been a lot. Y'all have asked me tons of questions, so let's talk about it. This whole episode is dedicated to demystifying the Love Jones wedding. So, I got married on September 29th, 2019 in Chicago, in front of my favorite people in the whole wide world, to my partner, Mr. Jones. And that is why our hashtag was Love Jones, L-U-V-V Jones, which is a little play on the movie, and it just works. And I think, even though I'm biased, I am very much biased, it might be the best wedding hashtag of all time. I'm just saying. So, yeah, no, this is a new thing for me. It's a major life change, and I decided to share it on social, even though I am typically very private about my personal life. People didn't even know I had a partner until I announced that I was engaged last November. And then I didn't talk about it much. I still didn't even talk about, like, wedding planning, really. But, you know, him and I are not ones who shout our love from the rooftops. We're not those people. But when we got married, we were like, all right, we'll be intentional about it. We'll share the journey. We'll share the day with people who follow me and the people we love. So we did that on social media. So if you follow me on social, especially on Instagram and Facebook, you've seen pictures of the wedding. If you don't, go to Instagram.com/Luvvie, Luvvie, and check those pictures out. We've dropped pics, we've dropped trailer, because the trailer was created by Yamin Studios. They were our cinematographers, and y'all have lost your minds over all the things that we've been sharing. It was a really intentional day. It was amazing. It was long, really memorable. It's the reason why I lost my voice for 3 days. And yeah, there's just a lot to talk about related to the wedding. So I was like, well, I'm going to do this podcast episode about it because people were asking me questions. And it'd be good to just answer it and let y'all know and bring you into the process. I've learned a lot because I think wedding planning and weddings in general feel like life boot camp. It kind of feels like you're being thrown into some fire, and hopefully you walk out at the end of it not being too charred. But at the end of it is this thing, which is ultimately why you're doing it, is coming together with somebody in front of the people that you love. So I asked y'all what questions you have for me. So I'm going to answer your questions, which will basically give you the information you want to know about planning a wedding, about bringing two families together, about logistics. And I'm also going to interview my amazing wedding planner, Akeshi Akinseye, who runs Kesh Events. Because here's the thing. I didn't just get married on September 29th. I had 2 weddings on that day. Two whole weddings. So yeah, I'm going to break this down. I'm going to talk about the planning process. We'll talk about the outfits, because you know that's important, the ceremonies. I'll talk about stuff like budget. I'll give you a little bit of tidbit on any type of terrible behavior that I had to deal with. And hopefully this also helps you if you're planning a wedding or will be planning a wedding soon, because I learned a lot. Again, life boot camp. So we got engaged in November of 2018 in Paris. Mr. Jones proposed to me after we saw the Eiffel Tower. We actually didn't get engaged at the Eiffel Tower, which I'm also good with because it was cold then. And I said yes. So we got engaged November, but we did not start planning immediately. I think we waited about 2 months to start planning because last year we also ended up spending the holidays in Nigeria and Ghana. So we waited until we got back to start planning, so January. One of the first things we did was try to find a venue because we wanted a venue that would allow us to bring in food, outside food, because it was important that there has to be Nigerian food at my wedding. If I'm getting married and there's no jollof, it just won't feel right. it didn't even feel right. So that was a big thing that we wanted to find first. So in narrowing down our venues, that was like a big thing. Like, do you allow outside food? Any venue that said no, we instantly had to strike. Because if it's the internal if it's an internal catering company that we have to use, they're probably not making jollof. And if they are, it's not the right way. So that's how we ended up finding the venue that we used, which was Moonlight Studios, which is in the West Loop. It was huge. It accommodated a big number, and they allowed people to bring in outside catering. Now let's talk about budget. So one of the first things people ask was like, what's a good budget? What was your budget? Here's the thing is, I'm not going to tell you what our budget was, but I say that our budget from jump was, we're not going to go in debt for this wedding. We want to throw a really good party with the people that we love, which is a lot of people. But we do not want to have to be paying off the wedding a year after the wedding, 2 years after the wedding. And some people tend to do that, and it's a decision that folks can make. I respect it. But for us, we didn't want to start marriage in a deficit. We didn't want to throw a party and then throw ourselves under the bus because of that party that we're throwing. So we put a number that we knew that it would not be a detriment to our pockets. So that's the thing that I think is really important, is don't get too carried away with the wedding of your dreams that you have to put your dreams on hold to have that wedding. So yeah, pick a budget that is realistic, that you can save towards, that you already have. And if you don't have it, then you are like, well, if the wedding is 10 months away, how much can we have or save in the next 10 months, where when it's wedding time, we have all the cash that we need. So that is my advice in picking a budget. How long did it take to plan? We started planning in January. The wedding was in September. But funny enough, I'll tell you more stories about why it actually took less than 10 months to plan this. I'm going to talk to my planner and interview her, because she's actually a huge part of the reason why we were able to pull off this wedding on the day that we wanted, in the time frame that we wanted. So getting good planners is clutch. So I have on the line my wedding planner extraordinaire, Akeshi Akinseye, who runs Kesh Events. Akeshi, hey girl.
Hey.
She's calling in from the Bahamas because she's the event planner who gets flown to the Bahamas to get stuff done. I said, oh, okay, you fancy. All right.
I forget. It's like 40 degrees in Chicago. It's 83 here, so I'm happy.
You know what? I like how you just rubbed it in. Just went ahead and just put the salt in the wound. It's okay. Oh, my God. So people have been asking, like, how were we able to have two weddings in the same day? And I'm like, it's because Akeshi and the Kesh Events team came super correct, and they basically were the reasons why it happened.
Oh, man. But that was so fun. But, yeah, I've had those questions, so I got them via DM, and we had a live, and they're like, how did you guys do two weddings in one day?
So the people want to know. How were we able to do that, Akeshi? How did you and your team coordinate this two wedding day? Because let's talk through the schedule, first of all.
The schedule, yeah. So I think first things first is, like, I think the whole point of planning really is down to being realistic with what is possible and what is not possible. Because this has been done before, but, like, the trad was at 2 or at 3 p.m. It's not going to happen. So I think being realistic with what you can't do, considering things that would happen is first, and then really planning that day out down to the last detail and following it through. Yeah.
So for people to know, so we did two wedding ceremonies. One was the Nigerian traditional ceremony, and one was the Western wedding. And it was important for us to have both because my man is from Maryland, I'm from Lagos. So it was a merging of cultures, and it's two cultures, let's have two weddings. And one of the things we told you was, how do we make two weddings happen where it doesn't feel like either one is like skimped on? And how do we make it happen in a day that's tight in the same venue? Mind you, it's not like we had two different venues. It all happened in the same venue, which means everything had to be down to time. So talk us through the schedule for the day.
So, man, I know you felt it too, because I know my girls knocked on your door at 4:30. Like, you got a phone call from the hotel, like, we're here,
Yep.
4:30 a.m. So it was really like on, my side on production, we start hours before you even see us. So like our day was at 3 a.m. So we were out and about, literally skip coffee, straight to the venue. We had to create 3 looks as well. So like I have 2 teams. Design team is unloading, and of course it rained all morning.
All morning.
But show must go on. So they're loading at 3 o'clock. Our planner is at the hotel, making sure you guys are out of bed, because it's hard to get everybody up at 4:30. But so it's really down. Again, we had a timeline where we could not be late, because if you miss one thing, everything else is late. So it's a matter of just having a strong team that can push everybody through and get everybody going. Hair, makeup, dress, stylist, transportation, everybody.
So let's work backwards. Let's work backwards. So for people to know, the traditional ceremony was scheduled for 9 to 12, and then the Western wedding was from 6 p.m. to midnight. So Akeshi's team is starting at 3 a.m. to get basically production started. They end up at my hotel room and knocking on my door at 4:30, because Merlin was assigned to me, because Akeshi had coordinators for both the bride and the groom, who were basically serving as our all hands on deck all day.
For sure. Yeah.
So
that's the only way. That's the only way. I know a lot of times, like, you can't leave the wedding party by themselves. Like, we got to keep going.
And I know we can't be trusted.
You guys have to be there by 8:30. We started at 9 o'clock on the dot, no room, and be out by 12, which was also fun, because everybody was literally ready to dance. I'm like, we have to go. So getting everybody out after 9 o'clock, getting through the day. But it was also easy because you guys trusted us, to be honest, with like our plan for the day, because you're like 4:30, you're like, yeah, that's how it has to happen. And you guys trusted us, so it made our job easier, so there wasn't any pushback, because again, realistically, we had to be up that early. And then getting through the day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, getting through the day. Leading up, you guys sent us multiple itineraries. So they sent us an itinerary for me and the groom. Like, we had our own separate, schedule for the day. They sent an itinerary for our wedding party. So they had their schedules for the day. They sent an itinerary for our family members, because, Nigerians can't be trusted to be anywhere on time. So everybody already knew what time they would be expected to get anywhere, including my mama, who, bless it, a Nigerian mama being on time is tough. So they also had to wrangle my mom.
She was like, I'm here. See, I'm not late. I'm like, I thank you. So she was good.
That's because we had multiple conversations. I was like, Mom, we can't be late because we have a tight schedule.
Yeah. She was like, you guys are strict. I'm like, we need you here. So she was like, I'm here. I'm like, I appreciate you. So that was good, too, because the delays could be from family. And realistically, we can't start without family.
Exactly. But we'd also identified to your team which family was essential to be present for ceremonies to start.
For sure.
I was like, I'm not waiting for all the aunties to be on time for us to start. As long as my mom is there, his mom is there, and certain key other people, we can get started. So, 3 days before the wedding, we had a 4-hour planning meeting, Akeshi.
Oh, yeah, it was like 4.5.
With champagne?
A bottle of champagne was had. Maybe some bourbon was had. I don't remember.
There was definitely a bottle of bourbon.
We had snacks.
Yep.
But that's how we do it. It's like we really have to sit and get through all of it, no matter how painful it is, which it was really fun. Like, we had fun. Carnelo's mom was there. It was really good. And we just went through the whole day. It's literally like, this is it. We had to go through start to finish. And to be honest, that last meeting, we can catch, little things. Sometimes there's a small change we don't know about, and we I didn't know that, and now I have to change the whole timeline, because it does make a difference in the day. So, we're able to just recap, because you're having conversations with mom and, family, and we're not on those calls all the time. And you may forget to, say something to us that's crucial on our end. So we pick up all those things at the final meeting.
During planning, what is one thing that you find is an absolute essential, whether it was in planning this wedding or the other ones that you do? What are the things that you can't do without in the process?
For me, it's just access to you. Like communication is key. That's literally all I need, first of all. Communication and realistic, like can or cannot do. You know what I mean? So we can say, here's the budget, but then we can say, we have to be in agreement first. You cannot plan until me and you say we're good. You say we're fine, and we move on, right? But then communication is key. Staying on top of things, like you guys have to know what's going on our end, right? Because you can't feel like, well, I haven't heard from anybody, so how is that? Is everything okay? So we reduce panic by talking often, like literally. Information overload is okay, but not hearing from someone at all is horrible, right? So communication, I think that makes things easy on your end. You're like, okay, we got it. I don't feel stressed.
Got it. And you are people ask us a lot, like, how are we able to be present in that day? And I was saying that, like, honestly, it's because we did trust your team. Like, we didn't have to worry about the details. We didn't have to worry about, like, timeline, because even if we were running behind, you guys adjusted on your end. How do you ensure that, like, the bride and groom feel comfortable? Like, what do you guys make sure you're doing before the day to be like, I don't want them to have to worry?
I think when you have to gain trust, you have to be very honest. We can't sugarcoat things, right? So in events, I tell you the truth. You trust me that I'm telling you the truth, and that whatever I say, I'm going to do. But trust is essential. And I think you have to understand who you're working with, right? So I can't plan with you and Carnell like I would plan with the next couple. Yeah. I have to understand how you guys work, how you respond, how you like to communicate. I know we had a thread going where we had our planning, which was like the most fun chat ever, but we had our chat group, which seemed to be the most convenient for you guys.
Yeah.
And some people are email. So sometimes if you're emailing a client and they don't check their emails, there's going to be a break in communication. So I think developing that trust and then adapting to what works for them, because this is for you, right? So I think that's essential also.
So some people are asking, because I actually have people submit questions for you. They said, how was it working with Luvvie? Was she cool or was she a bridezilla?
Oh my God, Luvvie was amazing. Whoever's asking, Luvvie was amazing, and that is the truth. Honestly, and I've said this before, I was like, if I didn't love weddings before, I do now. I do love weddings, by the way. But there was something about how you guys were. You were super chill, like be just chill. That's the only word I have, like super chill. Definitely not a bridezilla. I think if anything, you're most accommodating of people and vendors or whatever the case may be. And that's the honest truth. But I had a blast. We had a blast. We're still talking about it. Like, oh man, I miss them.
Right? I was like, man, you, Merlin, Imani, y'all made it so fun.
Because you guys were fun. So, like, a lot of times if you give fun to someone and you don't, we were never treated without anything but, literally anything but respect is what you guys just, all respect, all love. You trusted us. You guys treated us as professionals. And it shows in how we work. So people put out work as much as you let them give you, right? Mm-hmm. So you guys were like, good, I got you. I trust you. So that gives us more confidence to produce and do more. When you treat people well, they do everything for you. Yes. And in the service industry, people saying like, oh, they're working for me, but there's got to be some sort of a mutual respect. And you gave it all. Like, I love you to pieces. That was like the best month of planning ever. I'm gonna get in trouble. Yeah. I was
like, Akeshi, I'm trying to be your favorite. Okay, I'm trying to be your favorite. Okay. That's it. Okay.
It was so good. It was good because, we were able to do us and more because you guys let us, and you showed us love, and you have nothing else but love to give back. So it was awesome. Yeah. For those asking, Luvvie was great.
Yay! I'm trying to let them know. One of the things, besides planning, Akeshi is also like a decor and designer and interior designer. She has these amazing candles. So she also managed like the actual look of the day, not just the coordination of it. And when I did the first look of the room, of the ceremony room, I didn't even have words. Because
I know we had a video. You were looking like, whoa, like a kid. It was the cutest look ever, and that's the best part. Like just when you opened your eyes, you were looking like on the ground, like, whoa.
So when I started the wedding process, I didn't even really know there was a difference. I didn't know about like decor person. I didn't know about like, I was like, okay, I just need a planner. Give people, what is the difference between the person who's planning and the person who's doing the decor?
Yeah, so in the event world, typically, if you were to break it up, you'd have event planners that only just do planning. They find everyone that's a good fit for you. They do your budgeting. They manage the wedding, right? On the other hand, I do more event producing. So under my team, I oversee everything, but I have a design team, and we do floral, event decor. So, like, I do room, atmosphere, color, feel, vibe, right? So our story is more, we're not just, timeline managers. We're literally creating an experience from smell to sight to, the look of things. So everything is cohesive. And you saw even in the design process from stationery, we're still giving our input, like, let's try this. So everything has to feel like one big family and one story. So that's the difference. But some designers also do not plan, and they just do floral, decor, and they're not involved in, like, coming to your room and managing that day. I happen to, produce my wedding. So, and for me, it just gives me more control to produce everything properly.
So that was a big question I was getting was like, why did we pick Akeshi? Having Akeshi on board meant that we had like the full suite, the full service suite. So
For sure.
with her managing the day from the timeline to coordinate with the vendors and also doing the look of the day, it made it all really cohesive. There were little details that I'm not sure if people understood, but like even the color story of the day was super cohesive from the morning wedding, the trad, to the Western wedding. Our colors were super vibey, like they rocked together. I remember when we started planning, and the groomsmen were always gonna be wearing teal suits because that's what Carnell wanted. He was like, all right, since we're wearing teal in the morning, I want my groomsmen to wear teal in the evening. And I was like, oh, well, I want my girls to wear burgundy dresses. And I remember we were at my house, Akeshi, and you were like, I don't know if that's going to actually rock with the rest of the colors that we're going to use for the feel of the evening. And I was like, tell me more. Yeah. And you're the one who suggested, how about if your girls wear gold? Because they're wearing gold in the morning. And I was like, that could rock. And we actually changed it. And I literally told them in a thread, and I was like, hey guys, by the way, we're not wearing burgundy anymore. You guys are going to be in gold. And they were like, okay, that actually makes sense. So but that.
Now you see why it makes sense when, like, you walk through the day and, like, the girls in gold was perfect.
It was perfect. And next to the guys in the teal, the colors rocked. So that's why we picked somebody like Akeshi, who is a master of what she does, but she sees the full picture and the small picture. And her personality rocked with ours, and she's professional, and she got style. I was like, it worked. It was like the perfect fit. It was a perfect fit. And honestly, Akeshi helped us put out a couple of fires. Like, Akeshi helped us put us more than she's also like, I call her like the Olivia Pope. Like, there's probably some fires.
That's my new business card. Thank you.
You're the Olivia Pope of events. Because you were putting out fires when you came on board. You were like, nope, that's not going to work. Nope, that's actually not going to work. Akeshi found us a whole bunch of our vendors, our stationery vendor. She found us the lighting. Like, so somebody like Akeshi was perfect because she ended up being the person who kind of helmed the day. And that's why we were able to let it go.
Yeah, but it's also because you guys trusted, it's not, because sometimes, like if you said when burgundy, going back to the dresses, and you're like, I don't think that's, here's a better option. If you don't agree or don't trust my opinion, you're going to go with your burgundy, right? And then later on you're like, oh, man. But, the same thing too, like you talk about personality, I'll pull the style of your wedding based on your vibe.
Yeah.
Because your guests have to feel you in the room. Like, that's so lovely. Like, that's totally what she would do. It's not about me. It's about you guys, literally, and your personality and how you guys blend together. It has to show in every detail, from what the girls are wearing to the stationery design. And, like, that was, like, one of my favorites, too. Like, everything was amazing, but stationery.
Yeah, the
That was
stationery
also one of
was
my favorites.
fire.
Yeah.
Dami from Dami Studios in New York City did our stationery from our save the dates to day of. I'm talking everything. It was impeccable. It was impeccable.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought her to us. Somebody else has a question of, do you recommend a florist or bulk flowers if somebody is like, I want to do a DIY arrangement for my wedding?
Okay, so here's the thing. Buying bulk flowers, but when you get the bulk flowers, what do you do with it? Mm-hmm. So designing for us starts like 3-4 days before. So people don't know that. So when you pay an event designer, you're paying for the service and their design and their expertise, right? So people don't know that flowers have to be processed. So like we got flowers on Thursday, right? And then they come in, we have to process. So if you're DIY and you choose to do flowers, you may want to do something super simple. Like, and it's also okay to be realistic what you can afford. If that would, I would, for someone I would like that, I would recommend utilizing things that you can do easily, like candles, or little bud vases, if you choose to go that route. But I've seen people try to make their bouquets on a wedding day and have their mom or auntie trying to make the centerpieces. It just will not come out right. I would never attempt to build a house because I'm not an architect, right?
Right.
So it's the same thing. If it's not my field, I wouldn't touch it. But it's okay if you feel like you can't afford, the elaborate design, to simplify things and do things that you can do well.
And another question is, if people are on, like, let's say, what is the stuff that is worth skimping on for a wedding? And what is the stuff that people often say, dang, I wish I did that?
It's all about preference. When I meet couples, I ask what's important to you. So, for example, some people really are foodies and they will spend anything on food and may not care about flowers, may not care about a band. Mm-hmm. So it's really down to preference. But of course, people never forget how the food tasted. Lord knows that catfish was heaven.
Girl, people still asking for the catfish right now.
No, because people never, if you went to a wedding or an event and you had bad food, you would remember that forever.
Yep.
So the food is essential. I think like things on stationery, if you don't have a large budget, you don't need acrylic, all that stuff. You can simplify that, right? And then maybe look into things so it's really based on importance, but the base of a party is food and good entertainment. So if you skimp on like bad entertainment, people are just bored and they will not have a good time, So I'd rather you have a small, beautiful cake than a huge cake that tastes like paper because it's big and it looks beautiful. So I think down to the basics is entertainment, food, and the environment. But, the decor, it's really down to preference. Again, some people would spend money on, I've had people spend $10,000 on the dress and then we're trying to make some other things, So it's really being realistic with your budget, but also figuring out the basics, food, entertainment, the look and feel of the space is essential.
So for us, we told you we wanted good food, good music, and good vibes. That is what we basically said from jump. And we were like, check, check, check. I didn't really care. Like, I wasn't like hyper specific about what decor looked like, but I was like, you rock with it. And you gave us like an idea of what it would look like. And we were like, cool, surprise us. And I remember when
you were like, yep, we love it. Yep, go with it.
Yep,
cool.
I was like, rock with it. And I didn't know I was going to walk down the aisle with, how many roses did I walk down the aisle on?
1,000. So my plan was...
Because Akeshi is so extra.
I need more roses. And they're like, oh, this is 1,000. I'm like, I know, we want more. So if you let me, I would have done like 3,000 roses. But we had to design, so basically 3 looks in one space was
Yes, actually, let's talk about that. Akeshi flipped the room 3 times that day. 1 for the trad, for the Nigerian traditional ceremony, 1 for the Western I do, and then 1 for the reception. So how did you flip that room 3 times in one day?
we had several production meetings, and and again, being realistic with how much time we have, having the appropriate staff. So in the back room, which no one ever saw, there is I call it my war zone. If you walked in there, you were like, what in the world is happening? It was just flowers everywhere, but things were packed per trad ceremony, and each look was different. Mm-hmm. So you really have to plan, literally play it in your head, walk it with your team, and time it out, because we had an hour and a half really to turn and move the floral structure but it's really just planning and, again, being realistic with what you can put in. So I would have never pitched a floral ceiling, because we had no time to do that. So we put things that would be beautiful, but also we had time to do.
Were there any moments of crises where you were like, oh, shoot? Because we never found out anything. She never told us about anything any logistical nightmares.
What are you talking about? It's perfect. There's no crisis in wedding planning. What do you mean?
I was like, I know there's probably some fires she putting out, right? Because I didn't even see it. So
but that's why you hire professionals, so you don't have to deal with it. Because this one time, Carter was like, I know there's something going on, but you're not going to tell me. I'm like, nope, I'm not. I'm like, what are you talking about? Everything is perfect.
Everything is perfect. I remember I didn't even see you that day. I don't think I put eyes on you until 6 o'clock. I had seen, because I was like, oh, Akeshi must be running around. All I saw was other people. You were somewhere behind the scenes, for real, for real.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're front, left, back, just keeping, and at the same time trying to manage everybody else. Catering is asking for this, and then photographer, videographer, and we work as a team, but there's so much that goes on. So again, having the right number of people in the room to produce that kind of event, and that a big production like that is number one. Because when you're understaffed, there's some things probably never make it out to the table, but it was so fun. It really didn't feel like work. We were just oh man, it's early, 3 o'clock. Okay, let's do it. We just need coffee. And then we got back home. I got home at 3 a.m. So my husband was like, oh man, just take a sit down. I'm I just need a second. It was 24 hours.
Yeah, it was a 24-hour day. It was a 24-hour day.
I would do it again in a second for you, because it was so fun. And you guys made it every reaction was oh man, that was so worth it. Because you're oh my God. And then I think the first time you were wow, ooh. I'm there
I
it
said,
is.
wow, ooh. I sure did. I was like, is it wow? This is nice.
I was like, yep, she loves it. Job is done. And that's really what it is. But it should be behind the scenes. No one should ever see you sweat, and also how you say, don't commit to what you cannot do. So if I promised you, oh, this and this and this, and it didn't happen, you're this is what you showed me, and you never delivered.
You did the thing that I always advise people to do, which is to under-promise and over-deliver.
Over-deliver, yep.
You over-delivered on our day. Him and I are both type A personalities. We can poke a hole through anything. We are super specific about everything, and we had nothing to say but good things. We were I can't even be mad. I was like, dang. And it's new experience, because I've had to deal with such terrible work ethic people who don't show up in the way they say they're showing up. So that's why I was doubly impressed. I was I will shout Akeshi's name from the rooftops, because on the day that was thus far the most important day of our lives, you basically helped make sure it was perfect.
Man, that's such an honor. I appreciate it. For real.
So I'm yo, Akeshi's officially, my cousins were Akeshi's officially the family event planner, just so everybody knows.
Yeah. I'm when is the holiday dinner?
Listen, she's already I want to plan a family brunch. I think I need to call Akeshi. I was come on, she ready. She ready.
Yeah, we'll just post random parties just because. We can call it whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was I totally want to do more events, random events, just because I was I need to work with Akeshi again and again and again, and so we can have fun, because we had a good time.
So refreshing, because people think planning, oh my God, it's so stressful. But it really shouldn't be. It should be such a great experience, right? Once you agree on the big stuff and the budget and things like that, the rest is okay, here's the plan, let's do it. And I think, again, the trust factor is big, huge, and the vibe. So I go outside for everything I do. If the vibe is not right from the first time, I'm like, this is going to be tough because then I'm not enjoying myself and you're not.
Yep. And a key before you go that you told me when we started working together on the wedding was when you're working with an event planner, the first thing you guys have to talk about is the budget. Before you talk about anything else, talk budget. Why?
Yep. That's the bone. That's literally what it boils down to money. When people say they're stressed out, it's because there's a difference in opinion of numbers. It's really numbers when you really think about it. So I wouldn't do anything until me and you, everybody involved, have an agreement before we plan anything. Before I even look for a venue, I'm like, let's talk numbers. We do, our research. I'm like, here's what we're looking at, right? And then what do you guys think? You say, hey, we're good with that. We will start planning. If you say, wait a minute, this is more, where can we cut? We start cutting. But that budget is really, it just removes so much stress from the planning. And then the trust factor comes in because you're being real with them.
Yep. Major keys, yo. This was epic. And I was like, oh, no, the people got to hear from Akeshi because they had questions for you.
I'm so excited.
And then one other question for you. Somebody says, are you available to do events in South Florida? Because I am in awe of your talents.
Yes, to everywhere. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And that's why she's currently in the Bahamas. What are you doing in the Bahamas, by the way?
We're designing the gala for the Couture Retreat in December, so we just came to finalize design logistics. We're walking through the space and agreeing on the concept, so we're just planning away. 83 degrees and everything.
Listen, okay, just bring back some sunlight for me because the struggle over here is not cute.
Yeah, it's winter in Chicago. We just skip fall, but yeah.
Yeah, we skip fall for real. So how do people get in touch with you?
I'm Kesh Events everywhere. Kesh Events on Instagram, Kesh Events on Facebook. We're an email, info@Kesh Events. Website is keshevents.com. At Kesh Events. We're available via your phone as well. You want the number?
Don't give the number. Don't give the number because people are going to be calling you. No.
Yeah, social media, website, all of the above. Yeah.
And so that's KESHEVENTS. Keshi, I'm gonna let you go enjoy the Bahamas. Go lay out in the sunlight.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Indeed. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
All right, so I love Akeshi. I'm obsessed with her. I be finding different reasons to bug her every day. So yeah, hopefully that gave you some insight into the planning process. And really, we planned it over 6 months. Even though we started planning in January, we didn't really intensify planning until May. So really, Akeshi planned 2 weddings in 5 months, which is incredible. So yeah, I will get back to now answering the questions y'all have. How did you go about finding the businesses that you use for the wedding? So for our wedding, our vendors were all Black. Our designer was Black in terms of the stationery designer who was Dami Studios NYC. We found her because Akeshi was like, I know an amazing invitations designer. Because here's the bad behavior part that I must tell y'all about. When we first started looking for vendors, or actually when I first said I was engaged, a lot of people actually contacted me out the blue, just was like, oh my God, I'd love to work on your wedding. Oh my goodness. Because honestly, people saw my wedding as a moment to come up, which I understand because it's true. Because people know that when I love vendors that I work with, I share them. So this one particular stationery designer whose name rhymes with Ray, but y'all figure that out. She reached out to me. She hit up a couple of my friends and was like, please vouch for me because of Luvvie. I want to definitely work with her. So I was like, okay, I don't know much about invitations designers. I'll meet with her. I met with her. I liked her work. And I was like, all right, great. Y'all, I ended up having to fire her after 2 months and after giving her a couple $1,000 in deposit money that she did not give it back because she sent me a crazy disrespectful email. There's an episode of Jesus and Jollof, my other podcast, where I talk about conflict resolution. And in this, we talk about me receiving this 9-paragraph email that disrespected the hell out of me. It was her. Y'all, she sent me so much craziness in this email that I'm like, I could destroy your company by just screenshotting this and posting it on Instagram to show how ridiculous people are. How, when I say people do business in awful ways and how people don't communicate properly, how people don't deal with conflict well, this is what I mean. So I had to fire her after that email. And I said, you know what? Send us our save the dates. Because basically, at that point, she was supposed to have sent us save the dates. She sent us save the dates that were so awful in quality that I was like, oh, she got mad that I terminated our contract and sabotaged our save the dates. For what? So I actually shipped the save the dates right back to her and said, give us our money back. She refused to give us thousands of dollars back for magnets that looked like that barely stuck on the fridge because they were so bad quality. And I was like, wow. And this is somebody who's a small business owner who wanted to use my wedding as a come up, and who just came at me so crazy. So when we started working with Akeshi was like, yeah, no, I know somebody who's incredible, who's professional, whose work is impeccable. And sure enough, she sent us Dami. And Dami killed it, like from our newest save the dates to the invitations to the place settings that day. It was incredible. So for those who want to know who my invitations designer is, I tagged all of my vendors on any Instagram post where I talk about the wedding, but I will also include the links for my vendors in these show notes because they were so incredible. They were so good. Word of mouth is important in finding your vendors. Who's good? Who's professional? Who delivers on time? Who has somebody that you trusted used? Have you seen their product? Do you know their process? Because product can be good while process is awful. And all the vendors I ended up using had amazing processes. In spite of the madness that I had to deal with, I want people to know that you might find vendors who are not great or who show up wrong, but don't let it disqualify other Black vendors who are amazing. So shout out to Dami for doing our invitations. She's at Dami Studios NYC on Instagram. Somebody asked a question. As a fellow Nigerian, I'm wondering how you were able to keep the guest list so small. So let me tell you guys about our guest list. Because we're having 2 weddings, and we know a lot of people, both him and I know a lot of people, we love a lot of people, we couldn't afford to invite everybody we love to our wedding. Our guest list ended up being 270 for our traditional ceremony and 220 for our Western ceremony. It was the same guest list, but ultimately there were 50 people who were invited to the traditional who didn't get invited to the Western wedding. And the traditional is easier to have more people because of the fact that we did more past hors d'oeuvres. The thing about weddings is everybody that you invite is a cost attached. So to the point where each extra person is an extra 2 forks, an extra 2 spoons, an extra charger plate, an actual plate. Each person is actually really assigned 3 to 4 glasses because between wine, between water, between any other drinks. So literally every head comes with an extra cost. And it's something that you have to really think about. Who is really important to you? How we were able to figure out who we wanted to invite and who wouldn't make the list. We started with an all-in list. We started with a list that's like, all right, let's have a list of just everybody we love that we would love to be present that day. That list ended up being at like 400 people. And then we started cutting using different criteria. Like, okay, if this person was not in our wedding pictures at all, in no pictures of the day, would we miss them? Would we really, really miss them? So we cut people that way. We knew who our core people were, who were like, these people are not getting cut come hell or high water. They're going to be at this wedding. And then we really were like, we thought through, okay, who would hold us to our marriage vows? Like, who are the people who we can count on in the tough moments? Who are the people who we just want to invite for politics? we end up deleting those people because we didn't want the day to be about who should I should invite that person. So it was a really curated group of people. We wanted, again, the good vibes also comes in. Who are the people who will make that room live? Who are the people who will bring joy into that room? Who will bring love into that room? Who bring us love on a regular basis, even when we're not throwing a giant party? Who are the people who show up for us on a regular basis? And that's how we decided who we're going to invite. I want you to fight the inclination to invite people for any other reason besides they will add something good to that day. So it was one of our toughest things, bringing that list down, because we know a lot of amazing people. So it's not everybody who didn't make the list. It's not like they failed the criteria. We ultimately just had to make some really tough cuts. Okay, so, and that was tough. Some people are wondering, like, how was it to have conversations with certain people? It's not about having a conversation with them. It's one of those things. I've never thought to DM or send somebody a message or call a friend and be like, hey, why didn't you invite me to your wedding? Because I know the numbers, especially now having thrown a wedding. Unless you're my best friend, I will find it hard pressed to be upset if you don't invite me to your wedding. It's not a statement of me not being important to you, because there are a lot of people who are important to us who didn't make it on this list. It's one of those, like, whew, you just got to sift through it. You got to make some tough cuts that just going to hurt your heart. And if the person is important enough to you and you do want to have a conversation with them to say, hey, we had to put together our list. Everybody can't come. Listen, I wish I could invite you. If you can, feel free to have conversations with people who might get offended. But is this person that important? And really, a lot of times the people who are closest and most important to you are the ones who will say things like, if you want to cut me from the list because I know things are tough, or, guest lists are tough, please do. I had a couple of my really good friends, and this is how you can tell they were really good friends, who literally said to me, listen, if you got to make some hard cuts and you got to cut me because somebody else needs to be in that place over me, I'll totally understand. Like, they brought it to me. And I was just so impressed. I'm like, thank you for seeing me. Thank you for caring. And that is the reason why I want you there, because you show up for me even in the moments when it's not about the show. So, yeah. How did you choose your dress? When I got engaged, the only person who I had in mind to make my dress was Andrea Pitter Campbell from Pantora Bridal. Andrea's been making dresses for me for the last couple of years. She's amazing. I met her at the Monolucci magazine Coterie Retreat years ago, the one that Akeshi is actually designing the gala. And we just clicked. And then we happen to also be the same size. But beyond that, she's an amazing designer. Her mind is brilliant. The way she puts together design and brings the best out of you from your clothes that she makes for you, because she puts so much love in it. I was like, Andrea got to be the one to do my dress. So, yeah, after I got engaged, I actually went to her studio in Brooklyn. I said, so I have a question. Can you be the person who does my dress? And she was like, yeah. She was like, 6 people already hit me up asking if I'm doing your dress. I was like, oh, my gosh. And y'all, I didn't even give her a design idea. I just said, my style. I want my dress to be fire. She knows I love an interesting back. When this chick sent me the sketch of my dress, I said, you know what? Let me just lay here right, because you about to slay people on my behalf. And she made a dress that made me feel like a superhero on my wedding day. My white dress literally made me feel like I could fly. It's honestly my favorite thing of that day was how that dress made me feel. It was incredible. So if y'all are looking for an amazing designer, follow Andrea's brand, Pantora Bridal. They're on Instagram, Pantora Bridal. So that's how I chose my dress, because I wanted everything about our day to be full of love. I wanted every touch to be love. I wanted people to be like, yo, this day is so you. It's like the most elevated version of you. My dress was me. Every way, like, people who showed up were like, oh, yo, this decor that Kesh did, that's so you. So yeah. How did you know your planner was the one? I already gave y'all those answers, but also she came highly recommended by Jackie Nwobu of Monolucci Bride. She was like, yo, Akeshi's the one who should do this wedding. And I was like, will Akeshi have me? Because, man, she does amazing things. And sure enough, Akeshi was like, let's get it. Let's do this. And we did, and it was awesome. Somebody's asking, what do you do the night before the wedding? Did you sleep well? The night before the wedding, Felicia Leatherwood, my good friend Felicia Leatherwood, whose Instagram is @lovingyourhair, and she's been a guest on Rants and Randomness, came to my room and did my hair because we had to make sure my hair was ready for the day after, because for the traditional ceremony, I was going to be wearing a gele, which is a head tie, and then we had to make sure my hair would be ready for the Western wedding. So that evening, she actually came to my room. She washed my hair and coiled it. She put coils in it and deep conditioned. So when the gele was tied on, it was actually on hair that was still coiled. And then for the Western, she came and just unleashed the coils and moisturized. And it was a whole situation. So we did that the night before. While she was doing my hair, my bridesmaids, which is my sister and my two cousins, we were basically having a mini slumber party. We were dancing because we were getting ready for the traditional entry. And what else? My mom came to the room too. So, and then my girl Shell and Dele came. So we just basically spent the night laughing, dancing, being goofy. And then we didn't go to bed till 1 a.m. knowing we were not going to get that much sleep because everybody had to wake up around 4:30 and 5. Yeah, we went to bed around 1. The moment I hit the bed, I crashed. I slept really well. And then when Akeshi's team knocked on my door at 4:30, I was like, whew, that time went by quick. But I think I woke up with energy. Like, I woke up with, like, I was excited. I wasn't like, oh, I'm tired. No, I kind of felt like I had drank a Red Bull already. So, yes, definitely did that. Now, let's talk about the ceremony. I've been making references to the traditional, so I want to tell you guys more about that. The Nigerian traditional, it was actually the Yoruba traditional ceremony. I am Nigerian of the Yoruba tribe, and we have a traditional wedding ceremony where the whole point is for the groom to formally ask the bride's family for her hand in marriage and also promise to care for her, to honor her, to never take her for granted, to take care of her, and to basically treat her with the respect that she deserves, and knowing that even though this is new for him, he will basically dedicate his life to making sure that he is serving his family, and his wife is now number one. It's a beautiful ceremony, and it was important for us to have it because he actually wanted to have it more than I did. He was like, I totally want to do this. And also his family then showing my family that we are all merging and becoming one. So that is a part of the trad. I'm going to call it trad for short from here on out. So a lot of times people think like, oh, it's a traditional African ceremony. Those don't exist because Africa is a giant continent and each country has its own different cultures. There's cultures within the countries that are completely different. Mine was a traditional Yoruba ceremony. And again, like in it, the groom begs the family of the bride for her hand in marriage. He makes a promise to not just his family, but hers, that she'll be number one. And his family also brings gifts to show that they want to welcome her into their fold. Our trad was incredible. It was really like led by faith and love. Each traditional has an alaga who's the MC, alaga iduro and alaga ijoko, which the alagas are the MCs. They represent each family. They basically serve as they're the ones who keep the program running. Now, the really cool thing about traditional ceremonies, like the Yoruba traditional ceremony, is the fact that the men really have to show up in a way that is right. Like the men really have to prove a point, and I was looking forward to that. And our Laga, whose name is Cecilia Peters, was like, when we were getting ready, when she was preparing us for the ceremony, she was like, I'm going to have you come in after he comes in, but I want you to watch him do all the begging, because in the moments when he's feeling himself, just remember the things that he had to do to prove himself. And so what happens at the traditional is that both sides show up wearing distinct colors, like separate colors, to be a visual of the two sides. And then the bride and the groom both have their squads. So let's break it down. the Ajayi squad. So Ajayi is Yoruba for literally the Asho means clothes, Ebi means family. So Ajayi means close family and friends. And what happens is whoever's the Ajayi gets matching fabric that they get to wear. And each side, that means you walk in the room, you automatically know who's with who. For us, our Ajayi squads, we picked the colors of gold and burgundy. So my Ajayi squad had on gold, his had on burgundy. So he had 20 men in his Ajayi squad and then 20 of his friends who were girls. My Ajayi squad had 30 of my girls and, of course, my 4 bridesmaids. So the difference between, sometimes some people have it to be where their Ajayi squad is just their bridesmaids. I had my bridesmaids and my larger Ajayi squads because I have a lot of friends. My village is huge. And the point of it is that your friends stand with you. Your marriage is not just you two. It is a whole community. And how we pick the colors, well, both of us like burgundy. He went to Morehouse. And I was like, all right, you can have burgundy, so that's your color. I love gold, so that was great. So our Ajayi squads wore those, but then we chose to wear teal. So we were the only ones in the room wearing teal. And his agbada, which is the big garment that he wears, had burgundy on the inside. And my outfit had burgundy and gold stones to kind of bring together all the colors in the room. We got our clothes made in Nigeria, our traditional clothes. Bims, her Instagram is Bims24, made our clothes. It's out of Ashoke, which is this really thick hand-woven fabric. And she was incredible. Our clothes were banging. I was like, Bims, you did that. Part of the reason why the Ajayi squad is so fun is because part of the things that they have to do that day is they have to dance in the bride and groom. So the burgundy squad danced him in. Y'all should have seen how hyped they were. I was in the bridal suite waiting for the ceremony to start, and the ceremony started, and then he was getting ready to go in because I hadn't seen him that morning, of course. And all I heard was people yelling, we read. Yo, they chanted this dude in. I was like, oh, my squad got to show up. Y'all ready? Are y'all ready? It's fun to be in. It's a monetary commitment because you have to buy fabric. You have to get the fabric made. We had 500 pounds of clothes shipped into the United States from Nigeria because all of the clothes that we had and everything that we had was custom made down to the fabrics that our Ajayi squads wore. I now know that you need customs broker to get your stuff in if it's over a certain amount. I have so many stories from this wedding, including, so when the first half of our shipment was coming in of all the fabrics, it arrived at O'Hare. I got notification that it's here. I roll up there with my homie, and customs goes, what's this for? And I was like, oh, it's for a wedding. They're like, this is 225 pounds. What is this wedding? And I was like, well, that's for the clothes for the wedding. The customs agent looks at me and goes, yeah, this is considered a commercial shipment now. So I'm going to need you to get a customs broker. I was like, what's a customs broker? So a customs broker is a person who literally is the intermediary between you and customs to release your shipment. So we had to go hire a customs broker who then had to fill out all this paperwork. And before customs gave us all this fabric. It was a whole situation, but we finally got it in. Everybody got it sorted. Shout out to my bridesmaids, Raquel, Wanola, Kofo. They're the ones who were like dealing with clothing manufacturers back in Nigeria. We picked our fabrics. And what's cool about what we did was we did the same fabric for both Ajayi squads, but they were reversed colors. So the clothes, so his girls wearing the burgundy fabric, my girls wore the exact same fabric in gold. And when we did their geles, which is the head ties, we did it to be where his girls' geles was mostly burgundy with a gold stripe, and mine were gold with a burgundy stripe. We had a whole color story going. So I got a lot of questions about the trad. People ask, let's see. In a traditional Yoruba ceremony, what is the significance of the groom being inspected? So part of the thing that the alaga does during the trad is that she makes the groom cough and she makes him stand up straight. And it's all to prove that physically he is prepared to carry a family on his back if he needed to. And him and his boys are sometimes made to do jumping jacks, and they had to do a couple of push-ups, and they had to basically prove that they are physically able to handle what comes with everything, what comes with the responsibility of marriage. So it's just one of those fun, weird things. It's cute. Somebody asked, I noticed his mom had on a gele. Is she also Yoruba? No, he is Black American. His whole family is Black American. But for the trad, it's to show the uniting of both. So everybody came wearing geles. People came wearing fabric. His mom and my mom wore similar clothes in opposing colors. So his mom was in the burgundy and my mom was in gold. But my mom designed both their clothes to just really show that we're all on equal footing. And yes, he did have to pay dowry, so his family had to come with all these gifts and yams and Bibles and luggage to give to my family to take, and fruits to show, the sweetness of merging. It was really easy blending cultures for the wedding because his family's amazing and my family's amazing, and we love each other already. So his family was really excited to participate in the trad. We all had a good time. We talked about expectations in terms of how the ceremony unfolds, and we just had fun. Somebody's asked, what are the 3 things you should know if you're a guest at a traditional Yoruba wedding? 1, of utmost importance, is you want to come with a whole bunch of singles. Because one of the traditions at Nigerian weddings especially is that the bride and groom will be sprayed money. I'm talking like Africans basically invented making it rain, West Africans especially. So you have to definitely go to the bank. I say that you should bring at least $100 in singles. If you only got 50, that's good too, because when the bride and groom start dancing, you're expected to get up and put money on their heads. If you're part of the Ajayi squad, for sure bring money too, because one of the things that the Alaga made him do at one point was he had to lay prostrate in front of my mom with his boys to beg for my hand in marriage. And then she told his boys to get up and he needs to stay there, grab my mom's ankles. And this was one of the moments when I cried. The Alaga asked him, like, so who's that sitting on the stage? And he was like, that's my wife. She was like, who is that? He was like, my protector. He was like, my backbone. I was like, thug tears. That is the first time thug tears fell off. And then the second time was probably the first time was I had to kneel in front of his mom because both sides of the family have to pray for me. His mom has to pray for me. My mom had to pray for me. And when I kneeled down in front of his mom, and it was such a humbling moment, and before the Alaga could even say anything, there were tears in her eyes. And I couldn't stop my tears when I saw hers. So then she prayed for me. She accepted me as her daughter. That is one of the moments about the trad that makes it the most beautiful thing to be a part of, because everything about it is humbling. It's really showing that you're putting pride aside, you're putting whatever type of status you think you got aside, you're putting whatever ego you got aside to say that I understand the gravity of this thing that I'm doing. And if you're the groom, you're prostrate and you're literally laying on the floor on your chest in front of your family and hers to say that you take this seriously. If you're the bride, you're kneeling down in front of his family and yours to say that, like, yes, like I honor this. And it was for me, it was a stunning moment. It was pretty awesome. And people were really interested in our clothes. I already told you about how we chose our clothes, the teal. There wasn't any type of like cultural significance to our colors. You get to pick the colors that you want to wear for your trad. Most times you'll see people not do something like fire engine red because it's just too much. And you won't see people do like black that often either because those colors don't necessarily say celebration. And besides, like, we look really good in really bright colors. So the yellows, the purples, the golds, the teals look really good. How long did it take for my traditional outfit to be made? All our clothes were handmade, and mine was hand stoned also. Like, I don't even know how many stones ends up on it. Our clothes took about probably 4 or 5 months to make. Shout out to Bims once again. Y'all follow her on Instagram. She's Bims24, BIMMS 24. Can you give us the full details? Oh man, I was wearing Bajli Mishka shoes for the trad, and I had jewels by Pretty, my homie. I was dripping. I had, what else was I wearing? My makeup was done by Jasmine. It was just everything. It was everything. So yeah, hopefully that answered your questions about the trad. The trad was from 9 to 12, and we ran out the venue because I had to go back to the hotel and change. Well, I basically took a fresh shower, got new makeup done, and we did first looks for the Western wedding by 3 o'clock. Andrea Pitter Campbell dressed me for that. For the trad, Shegun Gilly, the illustrious bridal escort, Shegun Gilly dressed me. And then for the white, Shegun Gilly and Andrea, who made my dress, dressed me. And we did first looks. So because we didn't want to necessarily have to wait until walking down the aisle to see each other. And after we did first looks, we went around Chicago and took pictures with our wedding party. He had 4 groomsmen. I had 3. And his groomsmen had on these dope teal tuxes. My girls had on the gold sequins dresses. Fun fact, I'm the bride who told my bridesmaids, I don't want anybody wearing weave. Not because I'm against weave, but because I wanted them to show up in the way that they typically show up. And I also wanted them to wear something that felt real to them. And like they all wear braids. So I was like, yeah, everybody wear braids then. So they did like kinky twists and they did box braids. For me, it was important for everybody to show up to my wedding not looking like somebody else. I want you to look like the best version of yourself, not this is what I'm going to look like just on a special occasion. Like, it's also why I insisted I didn't put any hair pieces in. I was like, I'm going to wear my natural hair. So all of that was important. I was like, I want us to look back at these pictures and be like, yo, that's me looking really good, but that's still me. So everybody showed up. The men's haircuts was bomb. You know what I mean? My groom husband, he wore tux by Garçon Couture. All of our clothes were made by Black designers. His tux was fire, like fire. I was like, oh, okay then, you fine. Shout out to our barber, Ivan of Illustrious Cuts, for getting me and my groom's lining together. We was both fine. So yeah, the trad ended at 12. The Western wedding started at 6. And it started, and man, it was amazing. So one, the song that our wedding party walked down the aisle to was After All Is Said and Done, from the Best Man soundtrack. Come on, this is a Love Jones wedding. You know we have to bring in some 90s stuff. And he walked down to Major's Why I Love You, and I walked down to Cynthia Erivo, my Emmy Award-winning, Grammy Award-winning, Tony Award-winning, soon-to-be Oscar Award-winning friend and sister. Cynthia Erivo sang me down the aisle. And the song that she sang was Lauryn Hill's Tell Him, which starts with, let me be patient, let me be kind, make me unselfish, without being blind. And her walking me down the aisle was when I was about to lose it. I was like, Lord, it was a dream to have her sing me down the aisle because she's somebody who I love dearly, and her voice is touched by the gods. And to sing that song, which felt so right as I was basically making this massive change in my life, it just felt perfect. My mom walked me down the aisle. That was also really important to me because my mom has been my anchor. She's been my grounding. She is, for me, there was no other choice but have my mom walk me down the aisle. She zipped me into my dress, and I knelt down in front of her at the traditional ceremony, and she prayed for me. So when I was like, yeah, no, the only thing that I want, that I was very clear on from the beginning, is that like my mother was going to be the person that was going to walk me down the aisle. So, and as Akeshi said, we walked over 1,000 roses. And our officiant was Mama Abba Enem, who is incredible. Our day was so intentional because we wanted to make sure that every part of it was thought of, was purposeful, and meant a lot to us. And she's somebody who means a lot to us. And for her to be this beautiful, tall, bald Black woman wearing kente, she's the one who joined us together. It was perfect. Mama Abba is our Ghanaian mother. She also happens to be one of my besties' mothers. She's Bozma St. John's mom. Boz has been a guest on this podcast also. And y'all, she started our ceremony by thanking God in 10 languages. My God, I was like, whew, how am I supposed to keep my thug together? She thanked God, and people were moved to tears before she even really did much but pray. This woman loves us. She cooks for us. She prays for us. And having her, she's a minister. When we asked her to be our officiant, we were like, would you marry us? We were like, what would you need? She said, I'm going to need a box of Kleenex. And I remember the moment when I walked up to the altar, after my mom walked me down the aisle and Mama Abba grabs my hand. I had to look down because she already had tears in her eyes. She was so happy. We basically got joined together by this Ghanaian sage in Kente who was looking striking. Everything was just amazing. It's been a lituation from jump. We wrote our own vows. Our rings were made by our friend Pretty. Like, all the jewelry that we had on that day was made by Pretty. So every piece of the ceremony, even though it didn't feel like a small wedding, felt really intimate because of the choices that we made. The birdcage veil that I was wearing was also by Pentora Bridal, by the way. I got that question a lot. Man, it was a dream. It was legit a dream. The ceremony itself was about 45 minutes. And we also jumped the broom. Again, we wanted to honor both of our cultures. And for Carnell, that was important. So we included these different aspects of who we are into our day because it was really, we're seeing ourselves as true partnership. What's his is mine, what's mine is his. And we definitely honored that. After the ceremony, we had cocktail hour. And cocktails were provided by Saint Germain, who had people lit. We had two signature cocktails of the night. Brother of the Night was one, and the other was Love Potion. And those Saint Germain cocktails, y'all, had people just acting a fool already before reception. Now, let me make you laugh. When my sister turned 40, my mom, she got surprised with a saxophonist. And my mom ends up having this 20-minute dance party with the saxophonist in my sister's living room. Well, after that, my mom fell in love with the saxophonist. So in like July, my mom goes, so the saxophonist, I want to bring him for the wedding. And we were like, oh. She was like, yeah, like I want to have him come for the wedding. We were like, to do what though? To sing me in. We was like, you want to bring a saxophonist to our wedding to sing you in. Well, you know what? That's fine. You know what? Be extra. It's fine. So she gets the saxophonist. So we already agreed that the saxophonist will sing her in for the traditional. And at the white, we were like, all right, okay, he can do cocktail hour. Because we had a violinist, NK the violinist, also do music. So the saxophonist is Jean Sax. So cocktail hour happens. We take a few pictures with our family before we join cocktail hour. So when we come into cocktail hour, we just start dancing because we just spent the whole day dancing. We couldn't help ourselves. So me and Carnell are dancing. Cocktail, the saxophonist sees it and he goes, oh, word? That's what we gonna do? Y'all, this cocktail hour was supposed to be, this nice, calming hour and a half before the reception to get people kind of like, okay, eat some hors d'oeuvres. Oh, that's cute. Take a couple of drinks here. Oh, that's nice. Cocktail hour turned into a whole lituation to the point where the saxophonist and one of my friends, Dele, end up getting into a dance battle that included hip thrusts. We end up getting into all types of random other dance battles with people. And cocktail hour got so lit that there is a video of somebody's mama, I ain't gonna say whose mama, somebody's mama dropping it low as somebody else's mama, I ain't gonna say whose mama, is stuffing dollars into her dress as two of my guys from Voltron are pouring money over them. When I tell you the lack of behavior that started at that cocktail hour, then continued throughout the night and did not end till 12:30, I mean it. To the point where people thought cocktail hour was a reception because it was so lit. They was like, oh, okay, so we're just going to be eating hors d'oeuvres for the rest of the night. We good. This is good. I'm fine with this. We have drinks. We good. We were like, no. This is the precursor. That cocktail hour was an hour and a half because Akeshi and her team had to flip the room from ceremony and the rows of chairs to full dinner. So, but nobody even realized it was so long because it was such a party at cocktail hour. I've never been to such a party at cocktail hour. Like, that's supposed to be the calm stuff. So reception starts, and our DJ Bonsu, is amazing. He's been my DJ for 12 years, and he basically had the place jumping. People were eating dinner and having a hard time sitting down because the music was too good. Like, I heard, because I couldn't see from the sweetheart table, that there was one table full of all the Morehouse grads who were doing choreography during dinner. I was like, yo, people could barely sit still to eat because the music was popping. But then the food, so a lot of folks have asked about the menu. We did a merging of half the food was Nigerian, the other half was soul food. Our chefs, God Shelter from the African food truck that I've talked about all the time that I love. When I was like, God Shelter got to be the one to do the food for this wedding. It won't be right. He got to do our Nigerian food. And then Greg Taylor from Black Fox Catering in Chicago, who does a lot of amazing events, he had to be the one to do our Southern food, our soul food. And people have been asking what was our menu for dinner. So we had half and half, of course. For everything that we had a Nigerian version and a soul food equivalent. So we had jollof rice and mashed potatoes. We had efforiro, which is like spinach stew, and cabbage. And then we had stewed chicken and catfish. Child, between God Shelter and Greg, the food was fire. God Shelter made his jollof rice is one bar none, but his stewed chicken, bro, I don't even understand. And then Greg made this amazing catfish that people are still asking me about. I even posted it on Insta story because I was like, y'all, look at it. Even through the phone, you look at this catfish and it looks like the most perfect catfish you ever saw. It was the most perfect catfish you ever ate too. Our cakes were by Edit Ocon, so we had 2 cakes, one in the morning. The trad cake had flags of countries that we have been to together, that me and my husband, that's so weird to say sometimes, had been to together. So it had all these different flags. We've been to like 10 countries together. And then we got engaged in Paris. Our reception cake was like super classic, but he put the Eiffel Tower and all these different little pieces, like these details on it to just, it was just perfect. And our cake was 5 different flavors. Each tier, it was 5 different tiers, and each tier was a different flavor. Let me see. I think the top tier was Mexican vanilla with strawberry icing. That is just, Edit can bake. That man has been on Food Network. He's won a couple of their competitions. All right, so I'll tell you the other flavors. We had red velvet and Mexican vanilla. Third tier was Irish cream with chocolate chip. Another tier was chocolate and salted caramel. And then there was another one that was white chocolate and raspberry. And that's for the evening cake. The morning cake, we had a tier that was almond and almond butter. And then the top tier was champagne, Prosecco, and cranberry. Whew. So we also had these bomb custom chocolates from Philip Ashley, a black chocolatier out of Memphis. They were banana pudding flavored. Them things was bomb. They had our monogram on it and everything. And then we also had custom mumbo sauce from Capital City Company, me and Carnell's favorites, which is the sweet mumbo sauce and then the mild mumbo sauce, mild hot, I believe. So good. Our guests walked away just because we wanted to make sure they felt loved, and that's part of what we did for them. And for the reception, I was being extra. I changed it to this dope gold reception dress while my bridesmaids wore jumpsuits and we all wore like matching glitter keds. And those outfits were by the brilliant Tokwe FNR. She snatched our waist like no other, and it was necessary because we needed to snatch it for all the foolery that was going to happen. Tokwe FNR is an amazing designer out of Nigeria. That lady, she doesn't see 85% of her clients, but when she fits you, whew, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's what we wore for the reception, and the reception started. Folks was eating all day, because we wanted good vibes, good food, good music. That was what we wanted to make sure we created out of that day. That was full of love. We wanted people to walk away being like, yo, I felt it. That was them. That was really, really them, but really elevated, and we had an incredible time, and that's what ended up happening. People started dancing at 10 o'clock, and the DJ started with the wobble, and when the wobble played, everybody got up and nobody sat down after that. We had a yogurt station by Sweet Kiwi, yogurt with like raspberry frosé yogurt. We had a photo booth. Yo, all I'm gonna say is our wedding was a dream. I knew it would be fun. I didn't know how fun it would be. I knew it would be full of love. I didn't know how much love. I knew we would pray that day. I didn't know the day would be moved by prayer. I knew that I would be surrounded by the people I love, but I underestimated how much love I would feel from it. It was a dream in every way. I couldn't even stop smiling all day. And I'm somebody who's typically like looking out for like stuff like, something's gonna go on. Nothing went wrong. And if it did, we didn't notice because Akeshi and her team were amazing. And then the photos by Kesha Lambert, Yamin Studios, our cinematographers, it was the perfect merge of people doing the thing that they love in the way that they excel in it the most. It was amazing. And I would do it again. I mean, no, I would not actually do it again. This is a one-time thing. That's it. It's one time. Okay, this commitment is lifetime. All right, we're going to figure that out. And it was incredible. The whole process taught me a lot. It taught me a lot. In terms of questions that I've gotten, were there friendship fallouts? Absolutely. I actually lost a friend who emailed me, because one of the rules that we have for our Ajayi squads was that we each had to know we each had to know the other person's Ajayi squad members. Like, it couldn't be just, that friend that I had in high school that I haven't talked to in 8 years, that person can't make the Ajayi squad. So we had that rule. And a friend of mine who we've been close since college, like at one point we called each other best friends, literally sent me, but she's never met my man. Like, she's never met him, and him and I have been together for years. She sent me an email and broke up with me over email because she was not in the Ajayi squad. She said that clearly it's a deep cut to her that she can't ignore, and she disinvited herself to my wedding. So, yeah, weddings come with the friendship fallouts. I had a couple. I've had 2 or 3 from the wedding, and it comes with people wanting to impose themselves on you. Fight that, you know what I mean? Fight that power hard. And it comes with people projecting a lot on you. I learned a lot. Wedding planning was stressful, but once Akeshi came on board, a lot of things smoothed out. And also, you just have to be okay with the fact that this day is about just you. It's not about anybody else. It's about you and your partner and nobody else. People and their hurt feelings, they're going to have to deal. And if they don't deal, they can walk. It's a life sifter. Wedding planning and weddings are life sifters. You figure out who is there for you, who will show up for you, who will hold you down in the moments when you don't have nothing left, who will show up even if you weren't creating this party. And I definitely learned a lot of that. I think having people around you who will hold you up is important. My bridesmaids, like my sister and my 2 cousins who were basically my sisters, held me down. Like, they planned so much. They did my bridal shower, which I barely even had time to post about. They the ones who handled clothes. They were my sounding board. They were like my therapy council, the war room. I didn't put any friends in my bridesmaids squad because I have so many friends who I'm close with. It'd be hard to pick which ones. But I picked my family because I'm also close with my family. And I was like, I'm going to just have my team, my like actual bridesmaids be my family. And it makes my life easier. And it brought us closer. Those are my sisters. And throughout this process, how they showed up for me, I'm like, man, I'm so indebted to a lot of people. I really appreciate all the love y'all have been showing me on social media. And showing us about these wedding posts, and just really seeing through the day and seeing how we did move, and we moved by faith and love. And I'm thankful to everybody who's also, people gave to my registry. I didn't post my link publicly because it felt weird, but people DM'd me to be like, hey, what's your registry link? And folks who I've never met, like, y'all just follow me on social, we're like dropping stuff in our registry, and I really appreciated that. So I'm not taking any of it for granted, and I thank y'all for all the love. This is definitely a life change, and I'm trying to get used to it. People have been asking me, so does it feel different to be married? And I expected it to be jarring, or that the next day I'd wake up and be all, oh gosh, it's so new. It's not. And maybe that's because both him and I already switched to partnership mode a while ago. And it's not that like he doesn't complete me, because I already felt whole before him. It's his wholeness and mine that made marriage to each other attractive. And the fact that people always comment on how we seem so aligned, beyond the love, I actually like him. Like we like each other. So I know that major changes in our lives can feel life-altering, but this one kind of feels life-affirming because he's so dope and so grown and so willing to see me as I am. And he shows me that love is a verb and often a choice. We basically chose each other, and we're not typically shout our love from the rooftops, folks. So we were really purposeful when we made our wedding loud. So through it all, we were intentional through all of it. And so it does not feel just crazy jarring. And in terms of a honeymoon, are we taking one? Yes, next year. I didn't want to plan anything after this wedding. So for 2 weeks after we got married, I sat on my couch and lived my best bummy life, not seeing anybody, not doing anything of note. I did shower every day, so kudos to me. But besides that, I didn't do anything else. I didn't answer emails. I was just being unbothered with the world. And that was the perfect post-wedding plan for me. And we'll do honeymoon next year. We travel a lot anyway. So it was, for us, it wasn't like, oh my God, we get to travel now. We already travel on a regular basis. So it was less of an urgency to go on a honeymoon immediately. And the question that people are, of course, asking is, am I going to change my name? So, yes, I am. I will be going by Luvvie Ajayi Jones. So the Ajayi is not going to be my middle name. And so, yeah, Mrs. Jones in the building. All right, so I hope that clears up a lot for you. I could have honestly made this 3 hours long in terms of all the lessons learned, the stories of foolishness in the process, and the way we handle things. If you have any additional questions, email me at loveyrants@gmail.com. Let me know, because if you do have additional questions and I get enough questions and I feel like I need to do a part 2 of this, I'm so down, because I was actually considering doing just one episode strictly based on lessons learned from wedding planning, like 10 lessons that I want people to know. So y'all send me questions. Let me know if you want to hear that episode, because I don't want to bombard you with too much wedding and everything. You know what I mean? Because for me, this is new. Being vulnerable and open about my personal life is new, and I'm not going to make a habit of it. I just know that people are very curious about the wedding and the process and all of that. So that's why I chose to share it. And because it's such a big piece of my life that me ignoring it just feels inauthentic in that way. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, go ahead and share it with anybody who's getting married, anybody who's a person who just needs warnings about what weddings take, and just need more information on what it takes to pull off what feels like a major production sometimes. Throughout the process, I totally understand why people choose to elope or go to the courthouse. Ultimately, I am pleased with how our wedding went down. For everybody else, I'm just hoping you get the wedding of your dreams, whether it's you and one other person who is the person you're marrying, or whether it's you and 500 people, or maybe you, your mama, the person you're marrying, and their mama. However way you want to do it. So, yeah, man, I hope that gets you some good information. And that's this episode of Rants and Randomness, the Love Jones saga. Y'all can follow me on social media. I'm at Luvvie on all social. Go ahead, check out the show notes for the links to all the vendors that I mentioned. Show them some love, because they're amazing. And of course, follow this podcast on social media. We are Rants and Randomness on Instagram, Rants Randomness on Twitter. And again, if you want to send me an email, I am loveyrants@gmail.com. See you on the next episode.